And last but absolutely not least, Kwame Dawes, the Ghanaian-born Jamaican poet, is the award-winning author of 16 books of poetry. He's also published numerous books of fiction, non-fiction, criticism, and drama. He is the Glenna Luce editor of Prairie Schooner and a chancellor professor of English at the University of Nebraska. He also teaches in the Pacific MFA writing program. In 2009, Mr. Dawes won an Emmy Award in the category of New Approaches to News and Documentary Programming for his project which documented HIV/AIDS in Jamaica. He is the director of the annual Calabash International Literary Festival in Jamaica, and Dappy Conqueror is his latest collection of new and selected poems.
So, good evening. Good to be here. Really nice to be here. So many weird things sort of floating around in this gathering. It's great to be reading with Rachel Eliza. She took some pictures of me some years ago, and I hold her responsible for all the gigs I started to get after that. And we need to do that again. That Quincy, I came because Quincy asked me to come. You know, it's a busy time for me and complicated time, but the respect that I have for him and the wonderful work of this journal, you know, I couldn't say that I can't come. I mean, that would be silly. So it's good to be here, and Quincy, thanks for asking me to come. And you know, what is in this issue especially moves me a lot. There's a poem, a couple of poems by Kofi Awona, which was fantastic that Quincy would publish those, who died in Nairobi in the terrorist attack last year, and it was good that we could celebrate him in that way. But also in that issue, there are 7 African poets, what we call the new generation African poets, and they're featured there. You know, you'd have to go to the bio to know that that's who they are, but they are part of a book series that I've started called the African Poetry Book Series. And we've published 7 chapbooks by these writers, and they've just come out, and it's exciting, and we're going to do that every year. We're now editing the next bunch. We published Kofi Awuna's New and Selected Poems. We're going to publish Ama Atayedu's New and Selected. It's a stunning book with a great introduction by Helen Yeater, and that will come out next year. And if Ama will agree, she'll be reading at AWP Minneapolis, and that's just going to tear the place apart. So, Quincy, thank you for that, and I'll be sending you more stuff. The other weird thing is to see this article about Tony Bambara, Kate Bambara. You know, I know I'm sure she was the kind of person, I gather, that everybody thought they were her best friend, and in a weird kind of way. Today I'm full of things I'm doing, and I'm busy, and I hear something happening, somebody talks, and I go, well, I have this, and there's some part of me that can be excited. And I always remember when I had nothing to be excited about. You know, when you're a writer and ain't nothing happening, nobody's publishing your work, you're writing and nobody know you. You walk into a room and you go, look at all these people and nobody don't know who I am, but I'm really a writer. And you're feeling really bad about that, and it's just a miserable time, generally speaking, and you only come so you can eat the hors d'oeuvres and just say, at least I had something to eat, and then you leave and you're alone going home and you go, why am I doing all of this? Well, I remember this quite clearly because Tony, this was in 1990 or 1989, and I was at a conference in Toronto. And I was that guy, just really like, what am I doing here? This is really silly. Look at all these people and so on and so forth. And she gave a talk, and she got off the stage walked up to me. I'm just sitting there in the audience. Now, it was Toronto, so it's like, I don't want to make too big an issue of her identifying with me. You know, I think it was my shoes. Anyway, she comes up to me and she just says, "Come, let's go." I said, "I don't know you. Like, who are you? You don't know me." She just said, "Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's go." I said, "Okay." I just followed this woman out of the place. I mean, somebody paid for me to come to this conference. It's in the morning. I'm supposed to like be there. And she just says, "Let's go, 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 go." And, okay. And I spent the whole day with this woman. She just took me and she just kept saying, you're gonna do good. You're gonna, like she could see what was going on in my head. She took me for the whole day and then she just dumped me back there and that was it. It's like, what was that? And I'll never forget the generosity and just the bigness of that. That was like, and I knew, I mean, this was like a big person, like a big name and somebody who had, and she just sees this dude. And she fed me, I mean, it was like weird. And afterwards, and I have to tell this, afterwards, you know, would write email and so on and so forth, and she was always that way, just generous. Now, I know, like I'm nobody in that line of her life and her existence, but in that moment, I was like everything. And she gave me that attention. I'll never, ever forget that. So, yeah. So it's great to be in the midst of that. And finally, you know, it's a weird time. I just came back from Jamaica. I'm in Jamaica doing work on HIV/AIDS, the church's response to HIV/AIDS. And I've done some work in Jamaica on this before. And I found out that one of the guys who gave his stories to us, told us his life, had died a few months before. And so I'm going to begin with a poem for him, for Glendon. And it's called Elegy for the Candle Maker. For those hours of another interim, you dreamed of lighting all the dark corners of the city where the poor settled in shadows, thankful for the occasional illumination of a car's headlights casually swooping over the walls before the second and third darkness. With candles scented with lavender, you dreamed of giving respite in the gloom to those waiting for the sun, that unflinching ball of white flattening everything. This is what your hands could do, you said, you with eyes wearily seeking focus before the short, sharp glare of a smile. You show your hands, the hands of a man returned again from the dead. This is what miracle hands can do, what resurrection hands can do, what Lazarus hands can do. You take the soft coil of white thread, the wick, the fuel, the persistence of life, and lay it down on the wax embossed board. Then the raw square of beeswax with its soapy scent, malleable as clay when warmed, those you stack neatly so that the light through the broken window spreads inside the wax as if lit from within. On the sill, you have lined the vials of dye and the silver saucers of every aroma you have imagined. For days, you crushed leaves and grasses, rubbing your fingers and sniffing, frowning. This, you say, is what a man's hands can do. In the in-between, the place of restoration, of replenishment, the place between the emptying of death and the re-emerging of futures. You know that the body can return to walk the streets, to marry into love, to dream of making babies, to laugh and build dreams of filling the world with light. May they, Glendon, cover your grave with 1,000 candles, and may they light them after the Sankey and the tears. And may they leave them there to illuminate this last darkness we all must enter. And may this torch turn the broken sepulchres and crypts into a sudden temple of grace, here in the interim, between memory and forgetting. Thank you. So, I have my stuff all organized, but I don't know what's happening here. Okay, cool. I thought what I would do is read, I wanted to read the poem for Kofi Awona, the poem that is published in the anthology, and I think I'll read that to you. It's called The Light is On, and this is by Kofi Awona. The Light is On. I read the work of other people because one of the things that I'm a beneficiary of as a writer is the work of people who have gone ahead. There's lots of stuff I don't have to mess around with because they've sort of cleared the way for that. And that means a lot. So these writers, Donna Goodison or Derek Walcott or Kamau or Kofi Awona, they've created, given me permission to write into a landscape that is part of a literary imagination, and I think that's really important. Don't take that for granted if you're a writer. Anyway, this is the poem, The Light is On, by Kofi Awona. A gray pigeon has just flown in across the green country where loafers chase a speck of white. How I used to adore the summers, the windswept landscape, the open fields, and the lush, foreboding country. I almost forgot the water wide, wide as the vistas of youth, the wish to curb a foreboding future full of formidable prospects receding now so fast. Each gnat is part of this inexorable universe, this inevitable landscape with its own inimitable echoes. Our journey, supported by time and wind, captive of a May morning, away from the original March heat when the shimmers over the water glimmer so fiercely. There are times when a new sorrow rings, when regrets palpable as obvious fruits of ill-considered acts without hidden agenda loom large as fate. Dear, dear sorrow, rings reminding, just reminding of a time ahead, not for reckoning, but only for recalling as fate. The time we, as young as our country, dreamed of obvious success, of achievements measured in concise yardage of promises delivered, of children protected from age, the time when the river from which we came shall sweep us along towards the original source of imminence and glory, when we will defy love and death, when we shall stand by the beloved country as the single tree struggling to be a nation and a forest, benevolent fathers, when we forget the loins from which we came, not just back, into the river. Send us up the same water by which we came, so with the last fish we can cross the last ocean, to be one with the fire that warmed our feet, warmed your feet, guided you over deserts by pyramids and temples, shrines and sacred groves, on that island where once the bird was plentiful and the hunt was good and the cheer was loud and the laughter joyful, and the child, Kekeli, came one October day, large-eyed, replica of the first princes. And now the prince has come, promised someday by some river. I shall teach him the last light and revival, the divine affair of which he is part, of which he is an heir. Here is water for your feet. Here is flour for your feet. Here is wine for your lips. And here is the embrace I promise. Beautiful stuff. Kekeli is his son. It's funny, Kofi, when I saw him in Nairobi, His Kekele is like 12 years old, so Kofi Awona was 79 when he died. You can do the math. So I said, "You've been busy, uncle," and he said, the fools tell me I shouldn't be having children. What is wrong with them?" And he was very proud of that achievement, I have to say. Because, it involves some activity. I'll read two more poems and then we'll be done, okay? Two more poems. One is short and one is slightly longer. This is a poem called Iron. And this is from a new sequence. I have this whole long sequence called August the Quintet. These are poems written in response to the work of August Wilson. All the poems are a response to his plays, which I find such defining and moving things. And it's a massive book. It's like 300 odd pages of poetry, but all in dialogue with Wilson. So we'll see who is going to dare to publish that. I'm just kidding. Of course somebody's going to publish it. It's a pretty darn good book. But we'll see. Anyway, this is a poem called Iron. It's a sonnet. I have to tell you that because it probably doesn't sound like a sonnet. So, before your journey across the steaming earth, towards the water's edge, before you step in, feel the tickling warmth slowly washing dirt from your salt-dry skin. Check for everything. Make sure you have a flask of rainwater, the knotted torso of a ginger root, a flower that broke out of a brittle shell, a piece of paper, with simple verbs scrawled all over its plain surface and a place of iron as old as you can find. The man who makes this journey with iron will soon falter, will grow cold at the sight of the city of bones. His body will shiver with fever, and the congregation will sing softly, too late for heaven. So I'll end with a sort of funnier poem, but it's great to be reading here. Great to meet your work. I've started reading it right here. It's just powerful stuff, and yeah. So that was great, and it's great to be reading with everybody who read today. So this is a piece called "If You Know Her." And I always preface this poem by saying, this is not a poem about my wife, okay? It's not. It's not about her. Now, admittedly, I could not have written it without being married to her, but it's not about her. You got that? If anybody asks you, it's not about my wife. That's what I said. Okay, so let's go now. It's not about Lorna, it's somebody else, right? But it's not somebody else, it's an imagined person. See, I'm getting a mess now, I'm getting in trouble now. It's not somebody else. It's like, it's not even an imagined person, it's like art. Let's just call it art. I gotta stop. Just read the poem? I'll just read the poem. I'll just read the poem. If you know her, if you know your woman, know her rhythms, know her ways, if you're paying attention to her all these years, you will know how she comes and goes, how she slips away even though she's standing in the same place. You will know that her world is drifting softly from you, and she may not mean it, because all it is she is scared to be everything, scared to be finding herself in you every time, scared that one day she will ask herself, all 40 plenty years of her, where she's been. And if you know your woman, you will know that mostly she will come back, but sometimes when she drifts like this, something can make her slip, and then coming back is hard. If you know your woman, you can tell by the way she puts on heels, and she does not sashay for you because it's not about you. How she will buy some leather boots and not say a word about it, and you only see it when she walks in one night and she says she's had them forever. You will see the way she loses the weight and pretend it's nothing, but when she isn't seen, you're looking, you can see how she faces the mirror, lifts her chest to catch her profile, and how she casually looks at her ass for signs of life. Now, if you know your woman, when you are gone, she will find things to do like walk alone, go see a movie, find a park, collect her secrets, and you won't know because she's looking for herself. And she won't tell you that she wants to hear what idle men say when she walks past them, because what you say is not enough. If you know your woman, you know when she's going away, and you will feel the big hole of your love, and you can't tell why she's listening and humming to tunes you did not know she heard before, and she will laugh softly at nothing at all. If you know your woman, you will see how she comes and goes. And all you can do is wait and pray she will come back to you. Because you know that your sins are enough for her to leave and not return. All right. Thank you. Thanks, sister.